listening to the Contraritics Podcast, pushing back against the insanity of this world with arguments that may or may not work. And here's your hosts, Josh the Gun Nerd and Ian the Beer Nut.
We are in the closet.
That's right.
We are
not coming out.
Yeah, not coming out. Not till we get another guest. Yeah, we reserve the right to hide back in the closet and do just two of us here,
right,
recording. And then when we have a guest, we make it look like we're not hiding in the closet, and get a nice office to do our recording in. So,
yeah, I mean we just like to. I mean, there is some security in just. It's like your bedroom, going back to your bedroom.
There's security in the security closet, you're saying.
Right, right, yeah.
Hey, before we get started, let's just get straight into a beer.
Oh, sure, yeah.
What do you want to try first?
What's the other one?
It's a...
barrel aged. Let's finish with barrel aged.
All right.
Yeah, so this first one is one that I've been eager to try. It's a cherry offering. It's I think technically it's a sour. It doesn't say sour on it, but
it's got a cherry hue to it, pinkish.
Yep. I mean, it says Foder on. It's Foder, right, or Feder? Foder?
I think it is Feder, and I think
every time we debate about how to pronounce it.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean. It's got a cherry hue to it, and I don't think there's any cherry artificial coloring added. I think that's all just from the cherryness. So this is from Russian River.
Yep.
Acquired locally from our downtown eclectic bottle shop.
It's coming at 7%.
Mm-hmm. Smells sourish.
Nice. Yeah, I in general, I like cherries. I like cherry flavored things, and it can go really wrong, or it can be
right,
really good.
Yeah,
and I'd put that in the very good category.
Yep.
Man, I like to drink that on a hot summer day, which is kind of my qualification for any lighter beer.
Right.
If I want this on the beach.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
wow.
It's unlike, what was Sean talking about last time? The silver bullet, the mountain's blue or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think this would actually do fine at lukewarm as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Unlike some of the lower quality lagers that might be out there.
And so this one does it say, is it a ale or a lager or...
Well, it's an ale.
Okay.
Because
is that a no? So what makes it? So it's an ale. So it's the cherry is added on like a juice later on. It doesn't. I don't know what makes a like a bad cherry versus a good cherry. This seems to me like, and maybe you can do both, but. If you ferment with cherry in there, like you add cherry juice into ale fermentation, typically when it's fermented out, it gets drier. That's my assumption. And then it goes sideways, whereas if it's added afterwards, so you add the cherry juice to a lighter beer, it might kick off a light fermentation maybe.
Well, ChatGPT says there's two methods. Okay. One is... kettle souring method, which is a quick method, they say. So lactic acid bacteria are added to the unboiled wort. The wort is kept warm for 24 to 48 hours. Once the desired pH, sourness is achieved, it's boiled to kill the bacteria, then fermented with regular yeast. Or mixed fermentation, which is, they call it the traditional method. Use a mixture of yeast and bacteria. The beer ferments and ages in barrels or tanks for months or even years. This creates a complex, sour, funky, and earthy flavors. So
I think that was better stating what I was trying to say.
Because you can either add it, which I don't know,
on the ferment or after the ferment. So the unboiled wort, that would be pre-fermentation,
right?
Or I mean, that would be pre-fermentation. That'd be in the process, and then added in later on would be.
But I think to get the fruited or to get the sourness, I think like from that specific fruit, I think it has to be pre.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I think you're just adding kind of like a puree or a juice that is just gonna, which I think they do to like slushy beers and stuff like that.
Okay.
I think they add it post to kind of give it.
Yeah.
It contributes to the body of the beer as well as the flavor. Is my guess.
Well, that did not disappoint.
Yeah, for sure. Josh is a popular guy. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually going to check our camera, at least this camera, to make sure. Yeah, so I have to just, well, I can't totally forget, but I have to just kind of forget about the cameras in terms of not, I don't care about them recording me, but it's more about like also being the producer. Like I'm constantly.
If we're gonna do it, might as well do it well.
Yeah, and not wanting to be constantly anxious while also constantly aware, especially when we have a guest or something. Like
for sure, we don't want to waste their time. Yeah,
right. And like with Sean's last week, that should air today or tomorrow. It was after the fact that I noticed that like one of the whiskey bottle tops was like right here in the frame. It's not in front of his face, thankfully, but I was like,
but you notice it.
Yeah. And I was like, shoot, why didn't I notice that? I was more paying attention to framing and what was behind him.
Yeah.
And somehow I missed that. But if I would have been behind all the cameras, constantly monitoring everything the whole time, I would have noticed that. But this is
people got, if you don't know us, awesome that you're listening or watching or whatever. Ian has done like the audiovisual for church and stuff like that for a while. For you mean running sound on Sundays? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But doing all this, like, this is all just hobby level and with borrowed equipment and all that. Maybe someday when we make it big and we got 100 people paying attention
right
right or with a few more zeros on it, we can upgrade. So hey, we appreciate you hanging in there while we learn the ropes on this. And Ian's done a really good job of taking the lead on all of that. So
yeah, speaking of which, I don't think we've really talked about the sweatshirt you're wearing.
Oh yeah.
Which is it's inspired by what some of the things we talk about, defiance and obedience, and then the tagline, loyalty is on God's terms, because I think that kind of summarizes what we mean by defiance and obedience, because we're not saying always be defiant or always be obedient to everything, but often in life there's going to be tension, and you're going to have to live with that tension of being defiant to someone or something, a rule or something, that while maintaining obedience to God.
Yeah. It is a balance, and it's not something obviously that we've perfected, but I think some people tend to give away more obedience in the wrong directions and hold on to a disobedience in a wrong direction. And balancing those out is our goal, in helping our children and our families working through everything, and then also to encourage you all to know how to wield those. So
right, yeah, and I just think there's a place for like, even we were talking about how we often like, like the shirt I'm wearing, guns, beer, whiskey, freedom. I mean, that's fine. That's good.
Yeah,
those are good things.
I like all of those.
I like those things.
Yeah.
And also, there's not, if that's all you're ever saying, then it's, the world would have no disagreement with that, know. So when you wear something like that, people are like, oh, what do you mean?
Yeah.
We give a little bit more explanation by saying loyalty is on God's terms, but still like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And I kind of like that, where it's like we're saying something maybe a little bit provocative, even as we were talking with Sean last week. If you're going into it to be defiant, then that might be the wrong mindset. But going into it, knowing the world as it is, and not only how God set it up, but also sin being in the world, that expecting that you're gonna have to push against something, but not always looking to push against everything. I think there is a difference there.
There's just being contrarian for the sake of it. You just want to push against things, and so trying to you and I both in different ways are comfortable with being contrarian. We put it in the name.
right.
And with certain parts of our upbringing, the churches we've been in, there is a thing where we may be considered heretical to some of the aspects of that church. Some of them would say, to the point of eternal death, but some of them just would be really opposed to the good ways that we live our lives that we think are correct and biblical.
Yeah, because I think this can even lead into some of what other things that we want to talk about, but how like raising your kids to just always take the goody two-shoe path, in the sense that, because yes, you could say, well, doesn't obedience to God look weak to the world? Yes, it does. But it's obedience that also has a backbone. So you're not just looking for the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
When that obedience means doing hard things, then you do the hard thing.
Yep.
So how do we raise kids that are well differentiated and comfortable with conflict, but not looking to create conflict?
Yeah.
Specifically as regards daughters, because we don't talk about daughters enough.
No.
And we don't have as much experience with that. Well, in proportion, my kids, yes, I do have more daughters than boys.
How old are yours?
How old are my daughters?
Yeah, because then we can figure out years of experience.
12, yeah. 12, I think 10, and 8, and 6. I think they're all 2 years apart right now.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Ellabeth's birthday is in June, and then that gets thrown off. But
yeah. So you're over 30 years of experience with daughters.
Yeah, all in the younger years. So, so it is one of those things where I'm thinking ahead, like, it is one of those things also where, so I was going to say first character and what kind of girl do I want my daughter to be long term, and even just thinking about, I was listening to Jocko recently, and he's, a very simple question that you can always ask is, something like, where does this lead? Or what are you going to get? What's the telos? Like, what's the point that you're trying to get to? Or intentionally or unintentionally, like you pick up a new habit of, whatever, eating Cheez-Its, how many Cheez-Its a night?
Cheez-Its are really good.
But how many are you eating, and how many, or, alcohol is the typical thing, like, how much do you consume and how often and to what end? And I think it's good to have reasons why you're doing, like, everything that you do. Like, there is stuff that you should say, well, because God made it and I want to enjoy it, and I want to show it off as a good thing, and thank it, like, like you bring up what Jim says, you don't want, God doesn't want, the Father doesn't want the Son to just open the bike on Christmas morning and just
Yeah.
look at it. He wants them to write it.
Yeah.
But also there's, if he's only riding his bike and not paying attention to the rest of his family, then that's...
Yeah, exactly. He gets on the bike Christmas morning. You don't see him till
See
after
ya.
Easter. That might have been
Right.
You gotta evaluate yourself.
What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
So, just being able to raise kids that like what am I trying to get out of this, and then like what kind of result do we want to see? Like you want to set them up for success as well as just being a sturdy person. Like if you're not helping them deal with like emotional fragility and how to process their own thoughts and things, then you're setting them up for failure and a disservice to them. But even specifically with daughters, it's one of those tough things where it's like, the feminine role is a different role than the man's role, but it doesn't mean a weak person necessarily. Like they are weaker than the man, but that doesn't mean that they are a glass jar that needs to be put in bubble wrap.
Absolutely. I mean, in many ways, there's it's a different kind of weakness than being a guy. It's hard to understand, I guess, but it's also easier to see in some ways. Like I look at my daughter, and a lot of days my wife brings them to school after I've already started, and most days it's like dealing with some fragility that happened in the start of the day from the hair combing was too rough for her, and so she's got to get over her anger towards her mom for combing her hair too rough.
Right.
Or she tripped and fell, and it didn't physically hurt as bad as it was in front of people, and so it was embarrassing. And so like we can't hang on to this all the day, and like people saw me do something embarrassing, or even like hating somebody because of a perceived or real slight. Like how do you work your daughter through those emotions differently than you would with, I could tell my boys, hey, stop it. Like don't hang on to a bitterness towards somebody or whatever, or the way that they argue is going to be different than the way that they argue with their sister. Whereas with Nora, I have to like work her through her emotions. One, the sin of it, and also this is not what you're feeling right now is actually not reality. That's a big one, and she still has all the 6-year-old problems that come with it. But I remember 2 years ago, there'd be, Daddy, I don't want to eat this, and I'd work through, hey, you just have to obey, like that's the thing. But eventually, like just to kind of show her emotions to her, I would say, all right, don't eat it. And knowing that in that particular stage in her emotional wreckage, her response would be, well, I want to eat it now.
Right.
And so her response is literally from a statement she makes to a statement that I make to the return statement she has. Her emotions have just switched, and it's because of the disobedience and the sin in her heart. She's not dealing. The issue isn't that she isn't hungry or is hungry. The issue is her hungers are towards her own self and her own sinfulness.
Right.
And girls deal with that differently than guys.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
As I'm learning.
Right.
I also have the blessing of having a wife that's like pretty emotionally stable and doesn't usually go to the whims of everything that's going on. And so Nora is a new view into the feminine world, and seeing how it's just different.
Yeah, and I think as fathers, like I said, I think we do them a disservice by just saying, "Oh, they're emotional, they're women, I don't understand women,
Yeah.
because there is a mystery. Like I think, I mean, Paul talks about, the mystery of the church, but, that the church is the bride of Christ, but, there's a mystery about women that I think is God designed, that, they are from us in the sense that, God took a rib out of Adam and made Eve. I almost said Mary. I'm like switching stories, but that they're okay. Well, just because there's mystery there and things you don't understand, you do understand basic obedience. Like I think it's similar with toddlers. Like, okay, just because you don't, you're not a toddler right now also doesn't mean that you can't identify sin at that level. Yeah. So don't cop out. Don't just say, it's her and her emotions again. Don't just run from the scene. Now, it might require, like, sometimes I will just say, hey, can you go talk to so-and-so? Because, like,
you can speak her language better than I can in this particular situation.
Right, and that doesn't always mean running away, but obviously you should be on the same page. You should be communicating the same thing. So sometimes even just hanging around, just making sure that you are both saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But then how do we create gritty, tough women that fully embrace God's role as a woman, in the feminine role, but not sissies?
Yeah. Like tough girls.
Right. Yeah.
and not particularly tomboys, but tough girls.
Yeah. I mean, you think, I don't know why. I guess it's the cross on the Stop the Bleed kit on the wall that made me think of, like there were some tough ass nurses in World War II, like taking care of men that would come off the battlefield, and just, like it takes, like, we don't have that in our generation. No. But we can't even get men to join the military that have that kind of grit.
Well, it is interesting. Like, so my boys really like GI Joes. Buy them GI Joes. They're Ethan's. He's kind of starting to put them away. He's been putting them away for a while, and like missing that part of his life. But also like I've got better interests too.
Right.
But Nora, has wanted GI Joes, and I've resisted buying them, especially, like there's some girl ones out there. And so she was wanting them, like, to be part of the battle when the boys were playing. And I was like, no, like her job is to repair the broken when they come back from battle. And so we made little, I took some gaffing tape and made some tourniquets and
nice.
Some bandages and stuff for her. But right now, this is actually something that she and I have been talking about for about a week or so, is putting together an actual medical kit for her.
Oh, cool.
So that way she is able to be there, on the side of the battle or the back end of the battle for the repairs, whatever that is, whether it's, like we're going to get her like an ace bandage and an airsoft tourniquet and a pill bottle full of like Red Hots or something like that. And
she might have, I'm thinking of, not Lord of the Rings, but, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where Susan did have a quiver of arrows, and she was able to use it, but she wasn't handed a sword and told to go lead the men to battle.
Exactly.
Or the people, in that scenario, if you did have women. But, and then also, Lucy was given the bottle.
Knife and a cordial,
to save. And
there was a knife and a cordial, right?
Was there a knife as well?
Maybe not. I was thinking there was a short knife, but I could be.
There was definitely times when they picked one up, when the women picked up a knife at the appropriate time, and you might be right. But it's not to say women can never do violence, but it's not their calling from God to be the protector, to be the provider, to be the one out in front. But when called upon, that could be their role, but that's not their primary role.
We look at it as typically a failure of man if if that's the case.
If your women are fighting your battles.
Yeah, exactly. If they're fighting your battles, we want them to be able to protect themselves. Nora, Ethan's been doing jiu-jitsu for a couple months, and Nora and I were sitting in, I think it was last week, and she saw a couple girls in there, and she's like, "Daddy, why are girls doing this?" And I was like, "Well, it's important for them to protect themselves." And she like grabs onto my arm, and she's like, "But Daddy, you'll always protect me." And I'm like, "Right on, like we're heading the right direction." But
Right.
But also it'll be a good time when her brothers can teach her how to also, choke somebody out or whatever. So
yeah, like you, she might be a damsel in distress at some point, but you don't want that to be her default, where she's just like, "Oh, I don't know what to do. Come save me." Like, like I was trying to think of this. Just yesterday, Kim brought up this quote that somebody had posted, from Canon, from Rachel's "No Time to Be Dumb" book, and just talking about how you want like a tough, sturdy wife to run alongside, but not like how do you embrace femininity, which by definition embraces some submission.
Yeah.
Some form of submission, not submission to every man, but submission to your husband. So how do you embrace that while also being really sturdy? And I thought this was an interesting quote. Imagine a truly hardworking, high-achieving husband who loves his family and wants to care for them, but then imagine that his wife is really dropping the ball. She doesn't know how to set a table or make a meal. She doesn't know how to make the home a nice place to be. No matter how competent that man is at being a man, he is crippled in expressing his love to his family. He is crippled in his contribution that his household can make in building the kingdom. Take that same man and give him a capable, competent, and joyful wife. When he comes home, she has made dinner and the family gathers around the table. What exactly is happening? He is able, through her faithful work, to express his love and care for his family. His labor now tastes like something and looks like something. It can be enjoyed in a way that a paycheck never could. When a husband and wife are in harmony, working hard in their fields and enjoying the fruit of each other's work, the result is a powerful home full of love and tangible joy. This is a home that will taste good and look good and feel like a safe and joyful place to be. And this is simply not the kind of thing that happens without a woman who throws herself into the many different tasks and skills and plain old elbow grease that makes up a home. Good. She pictures it. I mean, when you say high achieving or whatever, I mean, you can, whatever you take that to mean, but like somebody, a man that's going somewhere that wants to do something, like whatever it is, whether it's, fix up old cars or, run a company, like he has a goal in mind, and each man leads differently, but the same principles apply. And, you need, like, that wife should be a help meet. Yeah. And, I don't think we're doing our daughters any service by, training them up to be, just I almost said side piece, but that has different implications. But like in the sense that she's just on his side and like, I'm here and I'm, I guess I can get groceries if you need me to get that. And maybe like, let's say maybe you cook a meal, maybe you learn how to make sourdough. Yeah. But sourdough is a tangible thing that can bless people. But if that's what you stop at, then I think you need more,
Like I said before we started, dad joke, it's a good start.
Right. And I didn't pick it up then. But
no, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
Can't get no respect for my dad jokes.
Well, I think if you would have said it's a good starter.
It's a good starter.
I would have got it then. Yeah. But I take a little more goading to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I want Nora to... here it comes. It's going to be good. Pour out the motor oil.
Coconut dreams.
Yep. I want Nora to be able to, cook well and brew well and all that. And I want her to enjoy doing whatever it is that her future husband is involved in. But, to just sit inside and only be able to knit. I want this is something that Karen's really good at, is being a good boy mom.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Ethan was, learning how to walk, and he climbed up on this little turtle, that was kind of on a pedestal kind of a thing. And he climbs up and he stands on it, and both of us were cheering him on. And, Karen was just coming down from her, snowboarding, stage and,
Yeah.
rock climbing, all that kind of stuff. And as she's become more of a mom, she's definitely like looked out for them, more for their safety than early on, which I think is really good, because we were less balanced. But also, encourage your kids to, she was fully on board when, for Ethan's 7th birthday, we got him, it was his dangerous birthday. You're gonna have a bow and arrow, you're gonna have a hatchet, you're gonna have a pocket knife, and those kinds of things. And knowing, this is gonna cause some cuts and scrapes and blood and tears and
Right.
and all that.
Hopefully no decapitations.
Hopefully none of that. And so far none. So it's been good.
Yeah. So even and obviously you can't control your family composition.
Yeah.
My daughters have one example of a brother. They didn't get multiple examples.
Yeah.
God granted us 4 girls and 1 boy, and so but I can even just thinking about I know the second young men start knocking, I'm gonna want to bash some heads in.
Yeah.
Just not in a just in I don't know, a competition sense, or just who do you think you are that you're good enough for my daughter? That, those type of instincts at least.
Mm-hmm.
And I was even thinking, working out this morning, I was just I got to get stronger, because I can't have these guys passing me up, whatever. But I was thinking, I do hope that that my girls look for a strong man, in all the senses, that desires physical strength, and that also desires to be have a presence in the room, and doesn't settle for somebody that but that all that comes back to it all in what I want them to look for. I keep looking back, well, I need to do more. I need to be the person that is setting the model for whether for good or for ill. If I do it poorly, they're going to look for the opposite. You know? But if I do it well, hopefully they'll look for the same type of qualities. And a bunch of dudes that are like me, there's going to be some conflict. But
I mean, what I love about Ian, what I think makes you a great friend, everybody should seek to have an Ian for a friend, is that you'll just call out bullshit. You'd just be like, dude, why are you doing that? I'm like, man, I love it. I know that I will not be able to get away with anything around you. So it's actually safe. And because you're not going to let me just drive off a cliff. You're like, dude, you're headed straight to that cliff. Why do you have your pedal all the way down at the moment?
I could have told you a long time ago.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get to the edge of that cliff around you. And so, but that same kind of person is what your daughters are going to be attracted to. And so you having to respect that young man to a level where you don't want to, one, because he's just younger and he's stupid,
right? And
then 2, when he's not being stupid, you having to admit he's not being stupid, and that's really hard to do. I mean,
and I mean, at the end of the day, I can totally see where there's freedom, once the handing off has actually taken place, and it's just you did your due diligence. You think you blessed the union, whatever. You gave your daughter away to this man, and now it's go and be blessed. And I don't have lots of thoughts of telling them what they need to be doing, and things like that. But it's in that transition where it's hey, she's still my daughter, and
but you will.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You'll totally have those times where you're gonna be like, this dumbass is just.
Well, yeah, and it is one of those interesting roles, and I think the Wilson family has like Nancy, has talked about, and Doug, have talked about, like, what's your role as a grandparent and stuff like that, trying to be, like, wanting the best for them. And so when do you say something, when do you not? Like, you don't want, like, I've seen plenty of examples of people that I don't want to be like, in terms of, like, thanks for the unsolicited advice, like, but there's a time to say your 2 cents, but you want it to be winsome, right? Like, you don't want to you don't want to repel them.
Because you don't want their default to be like, oh, there's dad,
right?
Just complaining again. You don't want the point where your naysaying is just like, well, he's always naysaying.
Exactly.
And so you have to, there's the old, you gotta have enough credit, for you to be able to
money in the bank. Yeah,
money in the bank.
I mean, that's one way to talk about it. Just like, and that's where I've tried to, in my older age. I'm not old yet, but just tried to back off on the, like, good job having critical thoughts. Yeah. But, like, is that actually going to help anything right now?
Yeah.
And have you put enough, even with my own kids, have you put enough money in the bank to say that right now?
Yeah.
Because, like, of course, if it's disobedience, like, call it out. But if it's just a thing that you're like, is this going to come across as nagging and nitpicking? Or is this, are they going to see that I actually care about who they are and want the best for them in this exact thing that I'm going to deliver?
For sure.
But I
we
mean,
have other important
we got
things to talk
something
about.
sitting in front of us. This Emerge, a blended imperial stout, barrel aged, coconut, vanilla. It says drink fresh. I don't know. I mean, it's freshly cracked can. So, Eugene, Oregon.
Eugene's
Claim
a funky
52
place.
Brewing. Claim 52 Brewing.
It's a 12.5.
Yeah,
I just saw that.
12.5. Yeah. Eugene. So.
Yeah.
Where's that?
That's-
Like, I know Eugene, but, like, I don't.
Past Salem.
Oh, okay.
By
There's nothing notable there, right?
the only time I've been, I mean, it's hippie central, if I remember right.
Is that where the one In and Out is, or is that in
maybe.
Salem?
I last time I was there was probably closer to 20 years ago.
Okay.
We went to go see a Death Cab for Cutie concert.
Oh, wow. Yes. That was big when I was in junior high.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, it was right about the time when they went big. Karen had gone to, like, all their small venue concerts, like at the Paramount, and they did a whole bunch of big stuff, and then they came back for, like, one last little small venue thing, and it was like a theater of maybe 600 people, but it could have easily been half that.
Okay.
But that's the only thing I know about Eugene, so I spent a few hours there.
So I'll be interested to see what you think.
Oh, wow.
I really like it. I think it's heavier on the vanilla than the coconut.
I'm picking up a lot of... This is like holiday level vanilla just on the nose.
Yeah.
Like the kind of vanilla you walk in and something's being baked or cooked and it has a lot of vanilla in it. Like pancakes are being made. There's syrup in the kitchen that got spilled on the stove or something.
Yeah, I'm really digging it. Claim 52. I haven't heard of that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, there is something that is syrupy in a good way. Man, I love what smells like. My nose is very limited. It's a lot of work for my nose to do stuff. Mm-hmm. But I love what smells bring to the table.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a huge part of your taste. This time of year, we got spring. We got flowers that are just popping up all over the place. The kindergartners brought flowers to everybody yesterday, and the flowers just smelled amazing. Like, I actually really enjoy flowers. And but when you just smell that, like, man, it really does smell like a good kitchen. Like, there's good baking done in there.
I don't think of myself as a flower person, but I have recently planted sunflowers. I planted quite a few last year, and
Sunflowers or sunflowers?
Sunflowers.
Yeah. Right on.
I harvested the seeds and then replanted this year.
Nice.
So we'll see how many I get. Like, it's a giant variety, so like the heads are like just the inside diameter is probably like 8 inches or so.
Oh, nice.
So it produces a lot of seeds, but yeah, I was checking out. It's quite a bit past Salem. It's like past, but I mean it is probably the next biggest thing.
Okay.
Because then after that it's Roseburg.
So it is a good ways down there.
And then Grants Pass is even further. I mean, it's not close to. It's just a little bit closer to Eugene as Eugene. Oh, about equidistant from Salem to Eugene, from Eugene to Roseburg, going south.
Yeah, well,
anyway, but yeah, I try to when we go on trips or whatever. I've dragged my family to many a brewery and just wanting to, because like I don't know, it's my version of like experiencing the local fare. Like, and just like what's the vibe on this place?
Totally.
You know, like I mean, Portland, you kind of know what to expect.
Yeah, gay.
Exactly. Well, you gay.
Yeah.
But it's actually hard, toting 5 kids into a brewery. It's just like, you don't know what kind of looks you're going to get. Like, we recently went back to Aslan up in Bellingham.
Oh,
yeah. And I looked back on pictures when we had been there back in 2018, and all the kids were toddlers. Most of them were toddlers.
Yeah.
We got similar looks this time, but it was way easier. Like, I just told them, hey, guys, we're here to show them that big families are awesome and that, kids are not a nuisance. You know, like... we bring you places because we like you guys. And we're like, sure, there's a time for going out alone, but then there's a time for just like, hey, this is who we are.
Yeah,
and
we're doing this.
We want to be a blessing wherever we go. We're not trying to be imposing necessarily. I mean, our size is one thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even that busy. So I'm like, I don't know why they wouldn't want business.
Well, yeah, it's a interesting thing because of, being in Bellingham, being in a college town. And so, hauling in a big family is going to be a little bit different than their typical look of customer. So
yeah. So what are your thoughts on this? I'm loving it.
I love it.
It's totally a different take on the vanilla coconut combination because that has many different varieties. I know you like the coconut heavy, but what do you think about this blend of vanilla coconut?
It does. This won't sell it to some people, so but I actually really like Almond Joys, but it has kind of that coconutty, the coconut is muted by the vanilla. So you might sometimes get. I've definitely had beers where you have vanilla and you have coconut and they're separate. This actually knocks down the coconut for somebody that would not like coconut. I would guess this might be one that would be interesting to them, as it's going to knock the coconut with a heavier vanilla take. And there's some like cookie, and again, like all these, like if you don't like cookie flavored beers, I wouldn't also rule this one out. This one just is really balanced all the way through. Yeah,
because like the when we did the stout from Skookum, like that totally had, like you said, baker's chocolate. I also think
the cookies and cream that we have up there.
Oh well, that was like the full Oreo experience.
Yeah.
But the one that we just at your place, the Night Fell aged stout or whatever. Barrel aged stout, I think that one had like just the cookie part of Oreo vibes. Like,
where this, I think you just get like a passing flavor of it. So it's not something that's going to hold you up and be like, I don't like, man. It's a very well balanced, very rich beer. I mean, the only thing that would make me think that it had been in a barrel, if I didn't see that, is just that it's a little bit more viscous. It's a little more heavy, which I really enjoy. When I'm having a dark beer, I don't want it to be like Guinness, honestly. Like that one. The first time I had that, I was like, whoa, that's heavy and rich. And then when I've had other really good beers unfortunately, Guinness is
Right.
less and less interesting. So
Yeah.
it's got its place. But
Sure. Yeah. I would say it's drinkable. It's not my go-to. Even as because it was probably one of the first beers that I tried. Guinness was, but even as and I thought, oh, maybe it's just because I don't really know beer that I don't like it. Yeah, there's a shot of the can.
yeah.
But yeah, I still have not jumped on the Guinness train. I do like the story behind it. You know,
Yeah.
I like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Read God and Guinness if you're looking for something to read and enjoy a beer too. Like buy a Guinness
Yeah.
and read the story and you will be blessed.
I was just I saw your piece on the table there, and I was thinking about how I had to eliminate a. The round come out? I guess it did. I had to eliminate a chicken last night, and I decided to do it with my little 43X that I daily carry. And I've wanted to, mill out a spot for an optic, at least. It'd be great to get. I'm assuming you can get a new lower that has the little cutouts for the.
Yeah, and you can get I think a TLR7 will attach to the trigger guard on that, and it's pretty nice.
Okay, because I know the 43X. What's the new version? I don't remember, but it already has a milled out spot, and it has a little baby rail on there. I mean, it's not a Picatinny, but it's just got little slots in there that receives. They make lights for that, but
it's the Glock rail, so you can get different little adapters and such.
Yeah, but I really like its like the narrow single stack profile. I mean, my wife and I have the same gun.
Yeah.
I'm okay saying that, but
Couples that carry together shoot intersecting fields of fire together, something like that.
It eliminated that chicken with ease. It's one of those. I've shot chickens with 22s before, and you got to put a couple rounds in before, like they'll still kind of. Like I had one. I shot a hen because I only eliminate. I mean, I have them for eggs, so I don't want to eliminate any. But if they just seem like they're suffering, this one had.
It's guts hanging out his ass.
Guts hanging out the back end, yeah. So I was like, I mean, everyone, like, I got Chuck and Teresa and Kim, like, before I do this, like, do you agree? And they're like, yeah, there's no way that.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what happened.
It's a hard thing to do. Like, you care for your animals, and you're like, man, I don't.
I mean, I'm raising chicks right now. Like, I raise them because I want them to have a healthy life to keep producing eggs. You know, it's like it's a mutual relationship, like I'm wanting to care for them well so that they will give me good things. Yeah. And and I was like, I'll just one shot. And I have my defensive rounds in there, but I'm like, whatever. I just center mass, and
I really actually do not like killing animals, even when they are for my food. I don't like killing animals.
No, I don't like it. But I want it to be dead as soon as possible. Like I don't want it to suffer.
I don't waste time with 22.
Yeah,
like it. Yeah, you can do it, but I've taken out rabbits and cats and a couple of dogs. I think a couple dogs at this point. Gosh, it sucks, but like just use a 9mm. Don't try to man up and use a 22. Like,
but don't like. I don't know. I just started thinking about this, but like, don't like butchers. Don't they use a 22?
Yeah, but they're doing it every day.
Yeah,
and
it's the same animal. It's the same type of animal, and it's like,
I mean, a lot of it times it's a cow.
Right.
So you're walking up and you're just placing
and
it right
they have
on
no
spot.
reaction. The cow has no reaction to it.
Yeah,
it's just like
done.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's quieter, so they're not having to deal with, having to ear pro it all the time. And it's an efficient way if you're doing it all the time. I mean, I've heard of people like taking out, grizzlies with 22s right through the eye and stuff like that. And it's doable.
But like if you're gonna take out a grizzly, I wouldn't go to the fight with a 22.
Yeah, exactly.
But it probably can be done.
It can be done. Yeah. So here's, just because we're showing off, this is my like, how old am I? This is probably like a 25, 30-year-old Glock. It's a Gen 2. It's stippled so that I can't sell it. But yeah, I've used that one for most of my like taking an animal out of pain kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, if you got a moose, then, you know, grab something bigger, but you could really do it with a 9mm.
Yeah, it really is one of those weird things. Once, like, you know, you talk about gravity, or like even wanting, like, your children to have a sense of gravity, have a sense of, not in the sense of gravitas, but like in the sense of like being well acquainted with physics and like, hey, when you do this, this has consequences in this regard. You know, and so getting close to like even how they get their food and stuff, you know, like eggs is a very minimal way to do that. But, you know, just like, hey, this sucks when we got to do this, you know, like this is not fun. I'm not enjoying this. I feel like I've failed when something happens that I felt like I could have prevented. You know, like even if a coyote gets them, you know, like I could have built the fence higher. I could have.
Yeah, it's caring for your beast, whether your beast is a chicken or a cow or whatever. It's
right.
You have a certain amount of responsibility for a thing, and especially when it's like more fragile, like a chicken, than maybe a cow. I don't know. Maybe they're equally fragile. Cows are weird.
They're larger mass, but similarly, intelligence. But like even when you, because a lot of times people will say they reduce their humanity to an animal or something like that. Like even when we were talking about Hitler last couple episodes ago, you know, how, he reduced them to animal. Well, even an animal, like I think in God's economy, gets more respect than that. Like you don't just eliminate people or animals just because, you know, like that's not when God commanded before the fall to, you know, take dominion and subdue the earth. Like that was not a call to just eliminate whatever you saw fit. It was,
it's weak. Boom. That's
right.
You don't do that.
And that's what I think is, you know, what is so repulsive about what Hitler did is like, I mean, he essentially created his own ethic of what was good and what was evil. And I mean, he was right in his own eyes, you know, and said, no, you're not worth living. You're not worth keeping alive. You're not worth, like, you don't have the right blood or the right features. Yeah,
it did. I mean, you wouldn't do to animals what he did to humans.
Right.
You know, it is an interesting thing when you have livestock of any sort, or even, I mean, we see it in a different way even with our pets. Like, you know, they're closer than a chicken or a cow. You know, you have dogs and you're trying to figure out how to deal with extra problems.
Right.
I mean, we both had it. I had a dog. His name was Sniper.
It's not working out.
It's not me. It's you, dog. like there's a certain point where like, man, you try. And also,
I'm trying to give you a good life, and you don't want it.
You don't want it, and that's a different thing too. Like this is, I mean, you know, we have a mutual friend whose dog got injured at our house through innocent actions of a child, and I have a, you know, like I don't spend a ton of money on a dog. I've spent several $100s on dogs. But like my general thought is keeping them alive shouldn't cost more than their initial purchase price. That's just me. There's other metrics for that. But like, so his dog had its teeth smashed out trying to catch a rock that was thrown by a child that just didn't realize that dogs would try to catch it.
This is going to end poorly.
Yeah, and so the dog was in a lot of pain, and the dog could survive, but also like, I've never been in a situation where spending thousands of dollars on a dog would be something that I would feel that is worth the dog.
Right.
So there can be reason, like let's say you, for whatever reason, have a family protection dog. That's great, and you've spent more money on that dog than I've spent on my dogs. That might merit actually spending money on some teeth getting smashed out. Like, hey, this is
like there's actually a function there besides just a fluffy thing.
Yeah, it's not like I only spent $100 on this lawnmower that I bought from a guy on Craigslist, kind of a thing, and so I can decide that it's not worth to spend another $100 on it or not.
Yeah, because I do think obviously there's always the other side to a story or to a argument, but I do think that a lot of in our modern day age of seeing more dogs in strollers than kids, and all that BS, that that we are actually. So there's both our own sentimental side of like not wanting to, the poor little Fluffy, just giving into either you or your wife's emotions about it, or just doing whatever to satiate your kids. Like that is actually, son, I understand how you feel, and I know this is hard. I don't like putting him out of his misery either. I wish we could keep him, but this isn't working. Like.
There's so much nuance to all of this that like you can make different decisions and it all be correct in this.
Yeah,
sphere.
It's how you react to those circumstances, and back to what we were saying about daughters. Like what kind of human being do you want to shape and hand off to that? Like you want to bless your generations by handing off a daughter that can handle stuff like this. That can actually be a sturdy helpmeet for your son-in-law. So right now, like, I will say, like to my father-in-law's credit, like he realized, there were job changes and businesses and things that were happening that contributed to this, but he realized that he wasn't in my wife's life really, and so made a shift. And walking in the morning was their thing, so they would go walking.
That's cool.
They would walk with weights or whatever, like kind of an exercise thing, but then they would just talk, and whatever stage you're at with your daughter, like figure it out. Like don't give up, don't just relegate it to she is where she is. Like save.
Don't do it.
Like you will only, like the amount of impact that you have now is probably the most you'll ever have, whatever degree that is. Whatever age they're at. So like dig in, do everything, do scorched earth if you have to, and say
absolutely
you're not don't send them off to college and hope that things are going to get better.
Don't be the hero in your work and not be the hero to your daughter. Like I hate that when I see guys that are just doing well in everything in life, but then they give up on their kids. It's like guys want adventure. Consider winning your daughter's heart an adventure. Consider teaching her in the way that she needs to be taught that adventure. Don't make rock climbing your adventure, your hobbies your adventure. Make your children the adventure. It's an adventure that pays off in all of time, and so make those sacrifices to do that. I've probably mentioned it here before. I talked with the 5th grade class recently. I tell this to Ethan, remind him often that like, Karen and I had a really good life before having kids. We got to do everything that we wanted because we were selfish jerks, and I was chief of that. And so like when I had him, and when he got old enough to kind of start to understand it, I told him, like, man, things were going really well until you showed up, and you wrecked my life, and I love how you wrecked my life. That was God's plan to make me less of a selfish person. I still am working on being less of a selfish person.
Yeah.
But your sons and daughters need to be your adventure. If you have them, you need to make that the thing that is your driver, that is your go-to. Your family is an outgrowth of everything else you do, not your business. So, be a good pastor, be a good business owner, be a good worker bee, but be the best father and the best husband. And those two don't go separately either.
Right.
I know.
Yeah, you can't just commit to one or the other.
Yeah, you can't say, "Oh, I was a good mom or a good dad," but I didn't focus on my marriage. Like, I'm trying to be specific. Like, okay, so my mom said, I was an awesome mom. Well, you know what? You weren't. You were in so many ways, but where you failed, the one part where you failed, where you were awesome in all the other ways, the one part you failed is where you were not loyal to your husband. That's the failure right there. So you cannot be a good mom or a good dad if you're not
defined by who. Like, who says, like, a good wife as God says, or a good mother as God says, is also a good wife.
You hold your vows to your husband or to your wife, and very specifically, like, that there will make you a better husband, a better wife right there.
Yeah.
I mean, a better mother and a better father right there. If you can't do that, you didn't promise your children anything. You have certain duties, but you didn't promise your children any of those things. So,
well, I'll wrap this up by, like, we were talking about the telos. Like, where are we going? What's the point? What's the end of this? When you talk about work, like sacrificing either children or wife or husband for the sake of work, or you talk about sacrificing, any of those loyalties that God says to have for the sake of something else. I'll read "Bless the Man That Fears Jehovah," and just think of the title first. Blessed the man that fears Jehovah. Bless the man that fears Jehovah and that walketh in his ways. Thou shalt eat of thy hand's labor, and be prospered all thy days. Like a vine with fruit abounding, in thy house thy wife is found, and like olive plants thy children, compassing thy table round. And like olive plants thy children, compassing thy table round. Lo, on him that fears Jehovah shall this blessedness attend. For Jehovah out of Zion shall to thee his blessing send. Thou shalt see Jerusalem prosper all thy days till life shall cease. Thou shalt see thy children's children, unto Israel be peace. Thou shalt see thy children's children, unto Israel be peace. I'm not saying you had to get goosebumps, but
but if you didn't, check your soul.
I mean, like, that is the goal. Like, not just to survive long enough to see your children, but like that they want to be around your table, that they want to, they also fear God, that they also are growing like your wife is prospering like a vine with fruit abounding, and that your children are prospering like olive plants, like that. All that speaks of is growth and prosperity in the deepest sense, in the sense that matters, not in the whatever you've amassed as either as a hoarder of of objects or of money or of fame, whatever the thing is. But like, are you being the kind of person that is worth emulating and that is actually building something to last, that your children want to come home, not that you invite them and kind of twist their arm to come home, but that they want to come home. If you didn't have that, then build that. Like, if you don't have a home, like, even you're talking about, like, you have a broken home, that that has lasting consequences, but like, you're trying to shape something different with what you're doing. So like, like your children, you want your children to return home, and not in the, oh, we have to go to dad's house or mom's house and there's all these rules, or that there's all these strings attached. It's just like, don't you want to go and be blessed at their house? Like, and not in the sense like, and where they go and they leave and they feel filled and they feel energized to go and do whatever they're supposed to go and do.
Yeah, be the household that your kids want to go to, because there's just a magnetism to it. Like, and when they leave, they as they get older and they have their own families, when they leave, they're like, man, that was a good time. That was great. They come away filled and blessed and wanting more of it, and not like doing their duty.
Right. Yeah, we did our token visit, and so, we got work to do. We got work in the defiance and obedience. Defiance sometimes of our own selves and our own.
Oh man, that's a very good point. Is like defying the things that you want, that are your own little special thing that you're like.
Yeah. Like I mean, I try, like, my goal is to always be harder on myself than I am with anybody else, and sometimes I definitely fail at that, and it's like, I'll tell myself, what you little bitch.
Yeah.
Like what, like
Totally. You just expected more of your 14-year-old than you did of yourself.
Right.
Okay, repent.
Right. And
Call it out.
I mean, I actually use that language I mean something by that. Like, I mean, like, I'm demeaning myself by being like, I'm taking on a role that's not mine, and I'm being, I'm not being the man that I need to be, like, so, I do.
You turn away from a situation like, I just effed that up.
Right.
Like, I really need to turn around and repent right now, because I would expect so much more of them, and then you have to do it.
Yeah, because if you want money in the bank going forward with whoever it is, your wife, your kids, whatever, then that is the moment you turn. Like, when you feel like you don't want to, that's the moment to turn around and just own it, and just be like, guys, I'm an idiot. I don't know why.
Gosh.
I honestly can't give a good defense for why I was like that right now.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was justified, and I wasn't. I was wrong, and just own it all the way down. Don't give yourself an out. Don't say, oh, but if you guys could have been a little quieter, I wouldn't have been as annoyed. Just own it all the way down.
Yep.
And
don't seek for them to repent for something that you're not wanting to repent of, even if you are. Like, that's the kind of, like, the standard. Like, don't look at them and go like, I would have handled this differently if you did. If you had handled it better.
If you were a different person.
Yeah, exactly. If you weren't the wife that I chose, if you weren't the children that have been given to me, then I would be a better man. Like, cut your face off. Like,
So all we're saying is that we say it, and we say it to ourselves. We realize we got a lot more obedience to dig down deep, and hopefully we will see prosperity like that song is talking about. And may you guys be blessed in that effort as well. And I mean, we're hoping to get a few more guests on that will help just think about this in all the realms, how we bring ourselves under submission to God in the various realms, and what's happening locally. And then we are trying to focus on that. So if you are in the Marysville, Snohomish County area, and you like what we're about, we'd love to have you on.
Hey, if you're outside the area and you can come here.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
or if you can find a brewery that we can drive to in a few hours.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'd take a road trip to Eugene or whatever.
That sounds good.
So welding defiance and obedience into one inseparable whole. Guys, hopefully we move the needle, even if it's like 1/10%, to help you just go out and do one thing today that moves.
I mean, that's what you and I are doing in
Right.
our own lives, right?
Yeah.
It's like trying to just bounce that needle just a hair over so that
Right.
we'll be a better dad and a better husband tomorrow.
There's so many things to focus on, so many things that you could get lost in, but don't lose. They say keep the main thing.
Yep.
Like don't lose sight of the telos and what we're trying to do as believers. And like Sean has been saying from the pulpit, like we want to keep our kids, like in this, not in the grabby sense, in the sense that we want them in the fellowship with the Father, in the same, in the faith, like walking in faith. Like we don't want to lose them to just the vanity of the world and chasing after wind. Like, so lean into that effort.
If you like what you're hearing from here, if you've paid attention to us long enough and you're not part of our community, ways that you can be more educated on what we are doing from this podcast, look at TrinityEvangelChurch.org. Look at Evangel Classical School. If you want what we talk about here and it's good and it's winsome, look at those places for how to educate your children. Look at the church for like if you're in the area, like come here. But if you want more information on why we are the way we are, look at Trinity Evangel Church. Listen to the sermons that come out of there and check that out.
Listening to sermons, I mean, that is part of what shapes us. And then all the community stuff, like that we're just the life. I mean, people say life on life. I mean, that's just a phrase that's overused. But
it's so accurate. That's why it's overused.
It's sharpening and it's just messy life on life stuff, that it's not always the person that you think you're having the most impact on that ends up being someone impacted and going on to do awesome things that might attribute it to those conversations and stuff. And what we're doing at the school and the church, or what, not just what we're doing, but how it's shaping us and our kids. And we're so grateful for that. So until next time, guys, lean into the work, look at it, stare it in the face and say, let's get after it.
Yep, absolutely. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Contraritics. Tune in next time for another dose of guns, beer, and contrarianism.